In today's video, we are going to explore the ongoing trend, Japandi Interiors. I'm actually very excited to talk about this because I feel like Japandi Interiors doesn't get as much recognition it deserves. I kind of like that because I don't want everybody to hop on the bandwagon. I still want it to be kind of like sacred, and I want it to be something that not many people can achieve or replicate. Maybe I'm wrong due to the fact that Japandi Interiors has been around for such a long time. To skip all of that, in the most simple terms, Japandi Interiors is basically a mashup of Scandinavian and Japanese design. And to achieve this design, I found some pretty defining elements that I would like to share with you guys. These elements are the simple practices you need to apply, and then the rest comes later, such as furniture, color scheme, and all that crazy stuff. So let's get into it. I felt like today I would shoot this in my bedroom because Japandi Interiors is all about comfort. It's all about, serene. It's all about tranquility, and what better way to get that atmosphere than being in your own bedroom. So the defining elements of Japandi Interior, we're gonna try to keep this as simple as possible and narrow down all the aspects. Since we're working with two different styles that are meshing together, they have their own history and they have their own foundations. So first things first, this is a must, and this is pretty much obvious, and we are gonna talk about the first element, which is minimalism. So I know my Gen Z and my millennial folks, we dream about this only because I feel like we grew up in a very cluttered home. When we were growing up in the 2000s and stuff, we were around a lot, especially if we were living in Canada and America. That was just the vibe. Most Japandi interiors you'll see have that sense of declutter. The focus is quality over quantity, less is more. In other words, you get rid of what you don't necessarily need and focus on what you actually need and use it as a purpose, requiring a lot of functionality. For example, you have your futons and sofa beds, a 2-in-1 option, open shelving. You have built-in wall shelves. You can be super mindful about that because then you can actually purposely put things that you want to be open for display and not just put it there because you want to get rid of it. You have your light dimming switches. Instead of having a ton of lamps all around the corner of your houses, you can play with lights that actually dim into different settings. And you have stuff like storage units. You shouldn't deprive yourself of all your needs in order to achieve that minimalism look. However, the idea is to store things away in a manner where when it needs to be used, you can just go and get it without seeing it, if that makes sense. So in Japandi Interiors, minimalism is not just about reducing your possessions, but it's about fostering that tranquility, that balance, that sense of peace when you have an open space. The more places you can walk, sit, and just move around, the better. Another core tenet of minimalism when it comes to Japandi Interiors is the removal of excess. So you're gonna keep essential items within your home, things that are used every single day, and things that don't take up too much space in order to clash with your other items. So for example, you're gonna have storage solutions so that clutter is hidden from the view and it keeps the surface very clean and open. And what comes with that is a purpose. A purpose not only to keep that minimalistic view, but also to keep that mental clarity. When it comes to Japandi Interiors, a lot of people want to have, that balance. Everything has a place for itself. We have smart storage. I want you guys to know the key here is to organize. It's not to just get rid of things. It's to organize and to have your space make sense. Next defining element, we have simple color variations. Okay, so when you look at photos of Japandi Interiors, you don't see that there's a lot going on with color. This is usually linked to a neutral color base. You want to keep that calm and serene atmosphere. A lot of the times you'll see soft whites, you'll see beige and taupes applied to different areas of the house. This is not only your furniture or walls. We're talking about trims, we're talking about your door, we're talking about utensils in your kitchen. We are getting very specific onto what needs to be detailed in your house in order to achieve that Japandi look. For furniture, you would usually see light oak, ash, walnut wood, finishing on flooring, furniture to provide a warm combination. Yes, I know this can be overdone. So right now we're heading towards the route of that sad beige aesthetic where everybody has been talking about. I know this look has been overdone. However, this is not the same thing. Japandi Interiors is not just a replica of the sad beige beige aesthetic. If anything, the sad beige aesthetic is a replica of Japandi Interiors. Japandi Interiors has an intention and a purpose in order to achieve that aesthetic. And even though people start to judge you based on that sad beige aesthetic, if you're trying the Japandi Interiors, it's okay because we can do it once in a while. It just doesn't need to be overdone. And I know I just mentioned the neutral base colors, but neutral colors doesn't always have to be your beige, taupes, and browns and grays. It can also be, like my personal favorite, a green. A green has a different textures to its color. So you have your sage, you have your olive, you have your muted green. So let's say after this video, you are sold on doing Japandi Interiors, but you don't want to apply it to your whole home. So that's what comes into my next point is accent colors can be your best friend. While all the base colors I mentioned is a necessity, you need to do this very strategically. So if you want to apply these color variations, let's start with what you would do in the first place. The easiest thing to start with would be a wall. This way that will leave the room with contrast of your other furniture. So when you go into your furniture, you're gonna go for clean, simple linen and wood and upholstered items. And then you're gonna end off with accessories. So you're gonna choose low-key accessories from the colors that you want to put in. So this would be like ceramic vases, woven baskets. I feel like how the light is hitting me right now, this is another defining element. What I'm also noticing with these color variations is that a lot of the times when a color is applied to a piece of furniture or a wall or a trim and an accent, it's kind of like an inviting form. It's an inviting and an introducing form for whoever is going to walk into that place, whoever is going to live in that place. So for example, if you're walking into a door of a Japandi Interiors house and you see that the door is brown, what does that give you? What is that going to invoke into you? And the idea, like I said many times, is to invoke that, peace and tranquility. But at the end of the day, it's going to be an atmosphere. Make sure it is an introductory feeling, okay? So it's not something that you just are going to put because you think it's nice. Either it needs to be a feeling for yourself or it needs to be an intention to give a feeling to somebody else. Our next defining element is practicality. So this one is a really good one because this can be very broad. What is practical for you? It's always great to think about these questions when applying Japandi Interior because at the end of the day, people are going to live in it, right? Or people are going to do something in it. People are going to be within that Japandi Interior setting. So you want it to be as comfortable as you can. You can use different materials to enhance those color palettes. So rather than thinking you have to make a color much darker or much lighter or change the color completely, I always say darker woods can add so much depth. Stone and concrete, you can use that for flooring and countertops. Why this makes sense is because we're gonna clash so many combinations together, and once you have that texture with the simple color variations together, you create a sense of balance. You don't overwhelm the space with too much color and you don't underwhelm the space with minimalism. Did you know that Japanese doctors prescribe their patients with forest bathing? So basically it's the idea that somebody needs to reconnect with themselves within nature and go in forest and start walking. So Japandi Interiors does have that element of connection to nature. So bringing nature indoors is a big key aspect to Japandi Interiors. It plays a key role into the philosophy. Everything that I recently just spoke to you about was all physical materials, okay? We have your wood and then you have, the color aspects and you have the furniture. The idea of connecting to nature and bringing plants balances all the previous elements that I've just spoke about. It gives you that indoor and outdoor feel and it makes you realize you are grounding your space. As ironic as it is, it helps you not only think that you are inside of a structure, but also outside, because what you see on your day-to-day basis when you are outside in the environment and walking, you can also have it in your home. So after going through all these elements, I had to dive deeper into Japandi Interiors because since it is a mashup of both designs, they both have their own, setting and cultural differences and different philosophies they applied in order to become their own design. So it turns out Scandinavian design, their core principles start out with functionality and minimalism. A lot of it applies to the Nordic tradition of craftsmanship and an egalitarian approach. The northern countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, they experience very dark and long winters. So the design is focused to have cozy and light-filled rooms. And you usually achieve these through natural wood and neutral color palettes. On the other hand, Japanese design is focused on the Zen philosophy. So you have wabi-sabi, which means finding beauty and imperfections, and then you have the Shinto sacred belief, which is connected to nature. Japanese interiors often focus on simplicity, but with a greater focus on meditative and serene atmosphere. So there's a subtle ornamentation when you compare them both together, but it makes sense why they would mash up these designs together, because I feel like it works perfectly in that sense. So even going over with the aesthetic of minimalism, Scandinavian design has the effect of minimalism because they want that functionality aspect to it with an emphasis on comfort. So you'll see a lot of wool and textiles. Now the spatial aspect of Japanese and Scandinavian design really intertwine, because when you have Scandinavian design, you in your Nordic places, you usually have a smaller space, so you tend to have a lot of multi-purpose furniture and a layout that can do more than one thing. And then in Japanese culture as well, when you see your typical home, you have mostly a modular home. That means you can easily reconfigure the space without having to buy new stuff. So that's pretty much the exploration of Japandi interiors, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. I feel like we're gonna dive into this idea rather sooner than later, because I feel like there is so much more to talk about if we're going to the specifics. I feel like a lot of my home decor style that I have longed for to achieve always ends up in Japandi interior for some reason. I love how I'm exploring different concepts and I am able to, you know, share it on video and even apply it within my own home if that comes to the case. Japandi interiors is definitely something I want to explore more of and get into, even just after going to Japan. But this is the overall basis of the principles of Japandi interiors, and I hope you really liked the video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'm definitely going to see you next time. Bye.